Hey everyone, and welcome back. So in the last video, what we looked at was how to publish data from the FC6A Plus over MQTT to AWS IoT. In this video, we're going to look at the reverse of that, how to subscribe to data that's coming from AWS IoT, read that data, and store it back in the PLC. So let's get started. Let me get out of your way here, and let's go into WinLadder. And we'll go into Configuration, Ethernet Port 1, and go back into our MQTT configuration. And this time we'll go into the subscribe settings. Now, just like when we publish, we can also subscribe to certain topics. So the first one, let's subscribe to the same topic that we published on, this FC6A/data. What we can do is we can subscribe to that topic, so any data that gets published on that, we can read it back into the PLC. It's just another way to make sure that we are indeed publishing data to AWS. So let's go ahead and put in the same topic, FC6A/data, and let's click on the Configure button here for our payload. We'll click on New Value. And again, for the name, if you remember, the name that we were publishing under was temperature. So we'll put in the same name here. So whenever we see the name temperature published on topic FC6A/data, we're subscribed to that. So we'll read that and store that into the PLC. Let's do it as a float. And let's store that in D1000. And that will also take up D1001. Again, it's a floating point, so it's going to store it as 32 consecutive bits. Okay. Now for our subscribe control, let's go ahead and specify an internal relay. And let's use M300. And for our subscribe status, let's go ahead and use D300. For our QoS, that's set to 0. That's fine. You'll also notice this auto on checkbox, and it's turned on by default. What this means and what this does is whenever the PLC connects to the MQTT broker, the subscribe control bit, this M300, will automatically be turned on. So the PLC is listening on that topic, it's subscribed to that topic, and it's ready to receive data. Okay. Now, one thing you'll notice, this subscribe control bit, this actually is the starting address. This uses 3 consecutive bits. Okay. When we did our publish, that only used 1 bit, but in the subscribe, it actually uses 3. The subscribe status is similar to our publish status in that it uses 4 consecutive registers. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and we'll add one more topic. And let's say this is called FC6A/ maybe new data. Okay. What we'll do with this is on AWS, we can publish to a topic. So we can go to AWS and publish on this topic and just see if we can get the value back into the PLC. So let's do that. Let's click Configure here. Click on New Value. And for the name, let's go with, I don't know, maybe Test from AWS. And maybe this is going to be Word data. And maybe we want to store that, let's say in D1002. Since we're using D1000 and D1001 to store the temperature data that we're receiving back in, that we're subscribed to. So we'll use D1002 here. I'm good with that. Say OK. OK. For our subscribe control, let's go ahead and make that M303. And for our subscribe status, let's make that D304. Okay. You do not have to make these consecutive. I like doing it, but you certainly do not have to. But so our first topic is using M300 to M302. Our second one is using M303 to M305. For the subscribe status, our first topic uses D300 to 303. The second topic uses 304 to 307. Okay, I think I'm good with that. Let's say OK, OK, and let's download this to the PLC. And once it downloads, we'll go into monitor mode. And I did save that last custom dialog box that we were working with. I saved that as MQTT So now that custom dialog box is saved as part of this project. So we can just call it back up. And if you remember, M0 was our connection control bit, so we turned that on to try to connect to the broker. D0 was our connection status register. D1 was the connection status error code. M200 was our publish control bit. When we turned that on, we tried to publish on the topic FC6A/data. And then D200 through D203 were our publish status registers. So the publish status was D200, the error code in D201, the number of bytes that were published in D202, and if we had a certain error code in D201, we would get an additional value in D203 just to give us some additional troubleshooting areas to look at. Now, I'm going to make this bigger, and I'm going to add some of the bits and registers that we just used for our subscribing. Okay. Now, I did go ahead and type those comments into the tag editor just so you wouldn't have to watch me type all that in. So when I do enter these bits and registers, you'll see their comments appear here. That's why I physically went into the tag editor and typed those in. Again, just so you didn't have to watch me do it. So our first topic that we subscribed to, we used M300 as a bit as the connection control, right? And then we used D300 to D303 as our subscribe registers for that particular topic. And those were all words. And we also said we were going to store the value that we got that we were subscribing to on that topic. We were going to store that in D1000 and D1001 as a floating point value. So let's set that. And then for our second topic, we used M303 as the subscribe control bit. Again, that's a bit, so we need to change that there to a bit. And we used D304 through D307 as the status registers for subscribing on that topic. D305, D306, and D307. And we'd said on that topic, the data that we received, we wanted to store that in D1002, and that was as a word, right? Okay, so we've got everything here that we need to be able to monitor this. So before we start, let's go ahead and let's go to Amazon Web Services and log in, okay? So again, once you log in, when you're up at the top, you can search for IoT Core. That'll also appear down here in your recently visited services, so we can click on it there as well. So either type IoT Core up here to search for it again, or click on it here in your recently visited services. It'll take you to the same place. And what we want to do once we get there is we want to scroll down and go to this test area. And again, we can subscribe to a topic, so let's do that first. Just like we did before, we'll subscribe to FC6A/data. And what that will let us do is we can see any messages that are published on that topic. So let's go back to our PLC. And let's try to connect to the broker first. So we go here, we turn on M0, our connection control bit. Our connection status register here updates as the PLC is negotiating with the broker on the connection. And once it successfully connects, it turns to 4. Okay. You'll also notice once we've connected, now down here for the 2 topics that we were subscribed to, their subscribe control bits were automatically turned on. So M300 for our first topic, M303 for our second topic. And those have a status of 4 with no error code, so we're successfully subscribed to these topics as well. Okay, now let's go ahead and publish. So we'll turn on M200 here, and we'll publish the temperature data out of the PLC. Once we do that, we should see the temperature value appear down here in D1000 because we subscribed to that topic. Okay. So we turn it on, it publishes, and there we get a value of 80.2. We can check that in AWS, and we see that we did receive a message on the topic FC6A/data. The message had a name of temperature and a value of 80.2. So that was successful. Now, the other thing that we can do is also still within AWS, we can also publish to a topic, right? You remember we made another topic called FC6A/new data. And we had said that any message with a name test from AWS, whatever value that was, we were going to store that as a word in D1002. So let me just put in a value there of maybe 159. So I can click publish here to publish a message on this topic, FC6A/new data, and this is going to be the JSON message that gets published. The name is test from AWS, right? In quotations, and there's the value. So let's publish this. Okay. And if I go into when ladder, what I'm hoping I'll see is in D1002, I'll see the value that we received from AWS from that message. Again, 159. Let me go back into AWS. Let me change that value. Let's say it's going to be 502. Hit publish. Go back into when ladder. And again, we see that in D1002, that value there is indeed updated. Let's make one more change. We'll go ahead and publish again on M200. And again, we should see the temperature value update in D1000 here. So we are successfully publishing MQTT messages to the AWS IoT. We are successfully subscribing to messages and topics on AWS IoT. So we can publish data and we can subscribe to data. So in the next video, what I'll show you is we'll write some ladder logic just to automate some of this process. So we don't have to come in and manually turn on the connection control bit, manually turn on the publish bit. We'll write a little bit of logic to kind of do this work for us. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this custom monitor dialog box. Again, just so we've got it so we don't have to recreate it. And then we'll get started again with the next video. Thank you again for joining, and we hope to see you again on the next one.